right this minute. Weekdays at 4 and 4:30 on Wyoming's news leader, K2TV.
Now, from Wyoming's news leader, more news, more often. Covering the day's top headlines, this is K2 News at 10.
Good evening and thanks for tuning in for your local news weekend edition. I'm Alfredo Cuadros. Coming up, the University of Wyoming is about to transition into phase 4 of its COVID-19 plan, what that means for students coming back to class. And a law enforcement agency starts a police academy of their own after new recruits are put on limbo to the pandemic. But first, let's take a look at our top stories. Natrona County Commissioners approved a resolution that would mandate face coverings in some county buildings at a special meeting this Tuesday afternoon. According to the resolution, all members of the public are required to wear face coverings in listed county buildings or department offices. People are also required to maintain 6 feet of social distancing. Children under the age of 2 years old will not be required face coverings.
Right now we see our county attorney who is unable to attend today because of possible corona outbreak within his family. We can't afford to have our staff close an office simply because we have an outbreak.
Meanwhile, the University of Wyoming will transition to phase 4 on Monday, November the 16th, a week earlier than planned. This means courses will move fully online, instruction starting this Monday. UW is encouraging students to depart for Thanksgiving break as soon as they receive a negative test result to best ensure their safety and the safety of their family. Students who need to remain on campus will be allowed to do so. UW will continue to provide housing, dining, and quarantine and isolation spaces through the holiday break. For those spending time on campus next week, testing will continue Friday, November the 20th. Local Trump supporters took to the streets to protest Biden's wins over this year's presidential election. Our reporter Caitlin O'Shaughnessy has the story.
Since Saturday morning's announcement that Joe Biden has won the presidential race, there have been several Republicans who believe Trump was the rightful winner. Supporters of President Donald Trump gathered outside the Dick Cheney Federal Building to show support for their candidate with a campaign called Stop the Steal, an effort to delegitimize the vote count.
I'm in downtown Casper right now outside the Dick Cheney Federal Building, where I'm surrounded by Trump supporters who are upset with this year's election. They believe the election has been stolen and they are here to voice their opinion.
Protesters are upset with local elected officials who they feel are running from the AP by remaining silent. By taking to the streets, these Trump supporters are letting the community of Casper know that when it comes to the 2020 election, it's not over.
What do you guys hope to achieve by standing out here?
Well, you know, is what Fox News and every other news source is trying to do, is they're saying, oh, it's over, go home, be quiet. If we allow it just to be quiet and we don't make noise out here, things won't happen and Trump won't feel the support around this country. Yes, our state gave Trump the biggest win out of all 50 states with the 70%, but it's got to be a country thing. Not just people in Arizona and the battleground states or Georgia or Pennsylvania. We have to do it here, and these elected officials that we voted for that aren't standing by our president at this time, they're the ones that need to be watching out for their next election.
Reporting from downtown Casper, I'm Caitlin O'Shaughnessy.
The novel coronavirus has been a challenge for many, with most businesses and organizations having to restructure. However, crime does not stop, and neither do local police departments. That is why the Casper Department is proud to announce the completion of one of the most recent and one of the most challenging officer academies in recent years. This 2020, new police officer recruits were not able to start their training in Douglas, essentially leaving recruits in limbo. So instead, Casper PD created their own police academy locally. According to CPD, that meant working extra nights and weekends, along with following health recommendations, all with the end result of a fully accredited academy. The result, 5 new officers joining Casper PD and 2 Evansville police officers. Here they are on your screen as they get sworn in. Statistics show that drivers are 3 times more likely to be involved in a crash at night than during the day. Doug McGee has some night driving safety tips in this week's WYDOT report.
While the year's earliest sunset and shortest day won't happen until next month, we're already seeing twilight and dark during the evening commute. To better see and be seen, keep your vehicle's exterior lights clean and in good working order, and always use headlights from 30 minutes before sunset to 30 minutes after sunrise.
Make sure that your headlights are properly adjusted as well. A lot of times folks do not realize that their headlights are out of adjustment, which will cause temporary glare or blindness to other drivers if it's not properly adjusted to the roadway.
In high glare and low light conditions, use extra caution.
Make sure that you're prepared for another motorist not seeing you.
Preserve your night vision by avoiding looking directly at headlights and street lights, and limit light sources inside your vehicle.
There's a lot of electronic devices, a lot of things that can cause glare inside of a motor vehicle. Please do not use a cell phone. Please do not use things that will temporarily make your eyesight worse.
Depth perception and reaction times tend to be worse in low light. Avoid distractions and keep an eye out for pedestrians, bicyclists, and wildlife.
A lot of times wildlife can run across the roadway in a split second, so if you are not focused entirely on driving, a lot of times that can end up in a collision.
Reminding you to drive safely and always buckle up. This is Doug McGee reporting.
Coming up, we'll have a look at the weather and your national headlines. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We have some active alerts that are going to be valid through our weekend. Some of these are to do with a high wind warning. We have winter storm weather advisories. We also have winter storm warnings. Got some of these conditions, especially on the western side of the divide, that have deteriorated considerably on us. And with that, we've got some cold air that's in place. Now, wind's been filling in. We've had some really high winds. We've had some high gusts. That's making this feel wind chilly. So we had some blowing snow as well. That wind's been coming through fairly strong. Those gusts have stirred some of that snow that hasn't melted off, and it is blowing across the roads. So we have some visibility issues. So call before you travel, because we have some road closures, and that is due to blowing snow, winter conditions, and these higher winds that we're going to be experiencing, with gusts that are going to be in the 30s, 40s, and 50-mile-an-hour range. Something to consider, especially if you're along the I-25 corridor or the I-80 corridor. Even if you head over Muddy Gap and down to Rollins, you're going to experience some of these windy conditions, and it's going to feel cold with the wind chills in place. That's going to be the case as well as we move forward, with lots going on in our weather, including some of that wind that's going to stay with us. We do have some sunshine. It looks like things are going to try to improve. We'll talk about that and what's coming our way coming up in just a moment. Welcome back to K2. I'm meteorologist Carl Rippy. It's great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Come on in. Let's check this out together. Even though we are considerably more warmer than we were yesterday in many locations, it sure doesn't feel like it. That wind has come through, that moisture that's on the ground from the snow and the melted snow, and some of those lingering snow showers here and there, it's just made it feel miserable. We have a little bit of that mist still in the air, and with that, those winds are going to stay with us, and it is not going to feel very good at all. We may make it into the upper 40s. You won't know it though. Our winds are going to stay high, and we had a gust of those lower 70s. We even had a gust into the 80s for us at the air base, and it looks like we've got some of those wild windy and wild gusty conditions left over. Chances will linger overnight into tomorrow morning. Things will try to straighten out. It does look like we'll try to dry out, but even as we have our skies clear, the winds will stay with us, and it's going to make for some dangerous travel because we will have some blowing snow. Call ahead before you travel. Lots of routes are closed. We do have a warm-up coming our way for Monday and Tuesday. We'll get back into the 60s. The winds will try to die down as we get into midweek and beyond. And what's happened is that wind has been coming in and filling in behind that storm that went through. That's left us with some cold air in place. And with that wind also and that high humidity, it's going to make this feel more closer down to zero in many locations. Winds will be blowing 15, 20, 25, 30 miles an hour. Gusts will be up to the 40, 50 mile an hour range. And we will have chilly conditions that will be turned into wind chilly conditions as that wind continues to come through. Now, west of the divide, we still have a storm making it in from Idaho. It's going to take it a while to drain into the valleys and plains. Some of these conditions look like they're going to be accumulating for us in the higher elevations because we do have snow that continues to come in. Down in the valleys and basins, what we're left with, though, is wind and gusty conditions and cold air, and that has made for some miserable weekend conditions for us as we've had that wind stay in place as we've got through the rest of our forecast period. Now, it does look like things will try to straighten up by midweek next week, but in the meantime, we still have these clouds that we're dealing with. We've got lots of these conditions that are going to be cold for us, especially overnight in the capital city. Also for us in the WYO city, it looks like we're going to be in the mid-50s as we get through the first part of the week. It does try to warm up as we get into Wednesday, and it looks like our overnight lows are going to stay on the frigid side, dipping back down even into the mid-20s for some of us. We'll have a mix of sun and clouds, and we'll definitely have some wind left over.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Benjamin Ari. More facts, less nonsense. Let's get straight to the headlines. Here's what's making news around the globe. Almost 2 weeks after the election, results are now in for several remaining states, giving us a clear picture of the Electoral College votes for both Biden and Trump. The future is female in Congress, it appears, with both Democrats and Republicans adding more women to positions of power. Former President Jimmy Carter's nonprofit foundation is stepping in to help with disputed elections in Georgia. And a major space mission is set to lift off this weekend. More details on these stories and others are ahead. But first, let's take a look at our top story. President Donald Trump spoke to the public for the first time in more than a week, touting promising development in the search for a COVID vaccine, while still not acknowledging Joe Biden's apparent victory. His remarks come just hours after media outlets made final projections in the 2020 race. President-elect Joe Biden flipped Georgia blue for the first time since 1992, while Trump wins in North Carolina. Mandy Gaither has the latest.
Speaking from the Rose Garden, President Trump made no direct mention of President-elect Joe Biden, but came close to acknowledging his own election loss.
This administration will not be going to a lockdown. Hopefully the whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be, I guess time will tell.
CNN now projecting the final electoral count 306 to 232, the same margin Trump beat Hillary Clinton with in 2016.
We're charging ahead with the transition.
For his part, Joe Biden is moving forward with his own COVID response strategy.
He will have a COVID coordinator who works in the White House, who has direct access to him, and will be briefing him daily.
His transition team still waiting for the General Services Administration to trigger the official transition process.
We're not interested in having a food fight with the GSA administrator or anyone really. We just want to get access to intelligence information, to threat assessments, to the ongoing work on COVID.
Biden will spend the weekend in Delaware, meeting with advisors, weighing options for key cabinet positions. Back in D.C., there are multiple pro-Trump groups planning on holding rallies Saturday, the president tweeting his gratitude and hinting that he might attend. I'm Mandy Gaither reporting.
President Donald Trump delighted supporters gathered near the White House on Saturday with a slow motorcade drive-by through downtown Washington on the way to his Virginia golf club. A week after the presidential race was called for Democrat Joe Biden, thousands of Trump loyalists converged on the nation's capital to protest the election results and claim the vote was stolen. After an hour of speeches from Trump loyalists from around the country, the flag-waving crowd set off toward the Supreme Court.
What you're seeing are hundreds of people, probably about 2,500 people out here or so far, no more than 5,000, but they're calling it the Million MAGA March. There are also another group calling it the Stop the Steal March. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who have gathered here today to support Donald Trump.
The Million MAGA March was heavily promoted on social media, raising concerns that it could spark conflict with anti-Trump demonstrators who have gathered near the White House in Black Lives Matter Plaza for weeks. In preparation, police closed off wide swaths of downtown where many stores and offices have been boarded up since Election Day. However, no major problems were reported. A record amount of women will be in the halls of Congress come January. At least 141 women will serve next year, 116 in the House and 25 in the Senate. Although that number could change depending on who fills the California Senate seat vacated by Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, it's still a jump from the previous year. In 2019, the total number of women in Congress was 127. That's according to the Center for American Women and Politics at Rutgers University. The number of women running for elected office has also jumped. 643 women ran for Congress in 2020. That's double the number from 2016. And for the first time ever, the Carter Center will be involved in part of a U.S. election. The nonprofit says it will monitor Georgia's hand recount of the 2020 presidential race to help bolster transparency and confidence in election results. Former President Jimmy Carter and former First Lady Rosalind Carter founded the center. It has observed more than 100 elections in 39 countries. This unprecedented move comes after claims of fraud from President Trump and top Republicans who have refused to recognize President-elect Joe Biden's victory. On Wednesday, Georgia's Republican Secretary of State ordered a hand recount of nearly 5 million ballots. Joe Biden has already been projected as winning that state. For more than 3 decades, the Carter Center has helped support democratic elections in countries during fragile and volatile times. And this weekend's NASA and SpaceX launch at Cape Canaveral in Florida will now be on Sunday instead of Saturday because of winds. It is the first fully operational mission for the Crew Dragon spacecraft. The 4 astronauts on board will spend 6 months on the International Space Station. The original launch day of October 31st was postponed to allow extra time for hardware testing. The launch is now scheduled for Sunday at 7:27 p.m. Eastern. And less people are planning to travel for Thanksgiving this year because of COVID. According to AAA Travel, more Americans are planning to stay home. They estimate a 10% drop in travel, and only about 50 million Americans will travel for the Thanksgiving holiday. That's a drop from 55 million in 2019. But as pandemic numbers continue to surge, AAA expects that number to be even lower. They say anyone who is traveling during the holiday should plan ahead, be prepared for COVID protocols, following health guidance, and know the COVID restrictions at your destination. Walmart is expanding in an effort to meet the needs of pet owners. The retailer will now offer pet insurance and pet care services like dog walking and pet sitting. Walmart cites soaring adoption rates as a result of the coronavirus pandemic as part of its reason for the new offerings. The new insurance plans offer coverage for veterinary fees due to accidents, injury, or illness, including chronic and hereditary conditions. The retail giant says the new insurance program also makes it easy for customers to file claims and schedule appointments. Walmart, which already has a growing assortment of premium and specialty pet products, says it aims to serve customers where they shop. We'll have more ahead in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi there and welcome back. It's time for sports. I'm Jay Pfeiffer. We start the day with big news from Major League Baseball as the first female general manager has been announced in the history of the sport. The Miami Marlins have named Kim Ng as their GM. She becomes the highest-ranking woman in baseball operations and the first female GM in any major professional sport in North America. The 51-year-old Ng has most recently served as MLB's Senior Vice President of Baseball Operations for the past 9 years, when she was the highest-ranking Asian-American female baseball executive. She has also served as an assistant general manager for the New York Yankees and Los Angeles Dodgers, working with teams that made the playoffs 8 times and won 3 World Series titles. Ng will be the 5th person to lead the Marlins baseball operations. She succeeds Michael Hill, who was not retained after the 2020 season. Ng's hire continues a wonderful trend of progression within the organization. Derek Jeter became baseball's first black CEO after his group bought the Marlins back in 2017. He then hired Caroline O'Connor, who as senior vice president is one of the highest-ranking women in professional sports. We move to college football, where another game in the Pac-12 has been canceled because of COVID-19 complications. Saturday's game between Utah and UCLA will not be played, the conference announced. It marks the 2nd straight week the Utes are unable to play because of reasons related to COVID-19. With Friday's earlier announcement that Cal and Arizona State would not play, the Pac-12 will look into the feasibility of having Cal play UCLA at the Rose Bowl, with Sunday being discussed as a possibility, sources told ESPN. We turn to the Masters second round coverage. The rain wasn't a factor today, but a few golfers had to complete first round because of darkness. We get our first look at Abraham Ancer here. He's your co-leader at the par 5 8th hole, getting comfortable, and he'll roll that one in for birdie. Ancer finishes at 9 under. Over to Justin Thomas. He's also on the 8th hole, but in some trouble. Third shot from the Needles. He gets it up the hill, and he's going to get a really, really nice roll there. Well placed. Thomas would birdie the hole as he moves to 8 under. Thomas now on the very next hole. Another birdie attempt here. Settling in, and he'll drill that one as well. Thomas goes low in the second round, shooting a 69, ending his day at 9 under. Over to Tiger now on the par 5 second. He's in the bunker on his third shot, and he hits this one right at the flag. Shades of that epic chip shot in from 2005. It needed just one more roll, but doesn't fall. Woods would birdie the hole to go to -5. Checking in with the world's #1 player, Dustin Johnson, on the par 4 9th with a short birdie try. He'll knock that one down. DJ wouldn't score as low this round, shooting 70, but still 9 under for the tournament. We get a look at Sung Jae Im here, also on the 9th at 7 under, looking at a short birdie. And it's bottoms for Im, concluding a wonderful day as he was one of the many golfers who had to finish up the first round early in the first day. He travels up the leaderboard to go to 8 under. Looking at Patrick Reed now on the par 5 8th, and he'll drop that birdie in. Reed moves to 6 under. Here's our first look at CT Pan at the par 4 5th, looking for a save, and he'll do so. Nice read and speed there. Pan would finish at -7. Getting our final look of the day at John Rahm at -7 on the par 3 12th. He'll like that one. Not an easy putt, but it drops in, and he likes that effort with a fist pump. Play would once again be suspended due to darkness, with action starting early Saturday morning. Lastly, we check in on some Friday night Big Ten action as the Iowa Hawkeyes travel north to take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. We pick up the action in the 4th with Minnesota and Tanner Morgan, and oh no, that is a pick from the 20. Riley Moss with his 4th INT in 3 games against Minnesota, and the Hawkeyes would immediately make them pay. Very next play, that is Spencer Petras going up top to Sean Byer, all the way down to the Minnesota 8-yard line. And this one is where they would salt it away, folks. That is Tyler Goodson in the backfield, and he will get the handoff and punch it in from 1 yard out, giving Iowa a 28-0 lead. The Hawkeyes would totally dominate the Gophers in this one and get their second win of the year by a score of 35-7. Hey, stay right there. Don't you touch that dial. We'll have more news for you after this.
It's almost time we go, but before we do, you may want to keep an eye on your packages this year. A new survey warns that porch pirates are getting ready to set sail. A survey by Finder.com reports that porch pirates account for $5.4 billion in thefts over the past year. That amounts to about $157 worth of packages stolen from the average American in their front door or apartment lobby area. Consumer advocates worry that the problem will get worse, with online purchases expected to be up by 11% over the last year. According to the survey, the thieves are more likely to strike homes or neighborhoods of greater means. If you want to foil porch pirates, you may want to get a P.O. box. Adding a home security camera or requiring a signature release can be effective. One surprising finding, about 1 in 9 victims of porch pirates admit to stealing packages themselves. Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. I'm Alfredo Cuadros. Have a great evening.